Hello and welcome to a BeSmartAboutArt.com monthly Art World webinar video recap. Today we're welcoming Zoe Whishaw. Zoe, hello.
Hi there, Susan.
It's a great pleasure to have Zoe. She is a photography consultant working with photographers at all stages of career. And so today we're going to be hearing insight from Zoe in regards to how you can stand out, in other words, get noticed as a photographer. Now, in terms of what we're doing in this video recap, this is part of an ongoing program of webinars that we hold every single month. So in this session, Zoe's going to be providing to you really the top points gleaned from the initial full 1-hour session that we did with Be Smart About Art. Anyone who is a Be Smart About Art member can access the full original recording. If not, you can enjoy this video recap. So who am I? I'm Susan Mumford. I am the founder of Be Smart About Art, indeed with expertise in the art world, and I'm here to guide the session. Now I'll tell you a bit about Zoe before she delves into really the nitty-gritty of how you can get noticed. So she is, as a commercial photography consultant and mentor, providing creative direction and strategic advice for photographers who want to take their work to the next level. And dare I say, Zoe, it's up to the photographers to take the action. She works on a one-to-one basis with people who are really seeking bespoke, objective advice from her experience so that they can focus their creative direction and marketing coming into today's session to gain competitive advantage. Indeed, the arts, photography, it's all very different from how it was even just a few years ago. In Zoe's experience as a seasoned editor and art director, she's had many years of analyzing and critiquing imagery across a broad spectrum of genre and subject areas. She's developed and contributed to the success of leading media company Getty Images, that's definitely a big one, where she worked for 17 years in senior creative and strategic positions, laterally, impressively I might say, European Director of Photography. So she's been on the judging panel as well of a range of national and international photography competitions. Those include, amongst others, the Association of Photography Awards, Wildlife Photographer of the Year, great prize, and Art Gemini Prize. And today she regularly conducts portfolio reviews at industry events. Indeed, at the end of the session, we'll just give you a bit of information as well about how she works with herself as a creative specialist. Now, Zoe, what I would love to hear from you before we do delve into the key points you want to cover, how did you kind of get into doing what you're doing, or rather, why did you get into, leaving Getty and working with photographers in the way that you are today?
Well, I've been working with photographers for many years, as you've just recounted, at Getty, and I think when I left about 6 years ago, I realized that I had all this knowledge and insight into how image buyers or art buyers use photography across predominantly advertising and design, but also across the editorial sphere as well. And I felt that this knowledge perhaps could be dispersed more democratically amongst photographers who aren't necessarily connected with a big media agency like Getty. And I've always enjoyed running workshops and seminars, and really it's that one-to-one interrelationship with people that I've always enjoyed so much, helping to inspire them and to get something back myself, actually. I mean, it's very much a two-way relationship that one has with photographers, trying to understand where their creative vision is and where their excitement is with their work, and my role is very much to tease that out and then to put that into the context of how to better market themselves and to find opportunities to succeed with something that they are passionate about. So it's really, I suppose, a combination of over 22 or 3 years, I've lost count, of working with photographers, coming up with ideas to help them devise original content that's led me to want to help individuals move from one stage in their career to the next. And as you touched on, I've worked with photographers at all sorts of different levels and stages. Some having been very successful, perhaps, but need a bit of a rethink as to where they're moving, whereas others might be maybe more starting out. So it's a whole range.
And of course, Zoe, absolutely empathise with what you're saying in terms of the pleasure of seeing those results from the work that you do on a one-to-one basis. And something we talk about a lot at Be Smart About Art is marrying creative and professional practice with integrity. And I know that that's very much so what you're doing, mind that you're also working with commercial photographers, not just fine art photographers too. Now, the first thing I really want to understand is, for any photographer today, what do they need to understand? What do they need to, what does their mindset need to be in order to really make a successful career at what they love doing?
I think the first thing I would say, which I think some photographers might feel is a loathsome thought, is that they need to consider what they do, their practice, as a business, which many years ago was definitely not as significant a thought process as it has to be today. But the competition is so enormous out there, and to survive, and indeed not just survive, but to separate yourself and to get noticed, you need to be thinking about, well, I'm running a business, and I need to consider what that really means. Now, it's not as scary as it might seem, but perhaps it would be helpful. Shall I just run out through just what that actually means to a photographer? I think running a business as a photographer is no different from running a business in any other sense, insofar as you need to think about, do I have a product that, and in this case, of course, it's photography, that has a market, and is that product, is that photography, does it have a particular style, and does it stand out, and is it consistent, such that I can market it in a way that I will get noticed and be remembered for. So just as with any business, you need to have something that people want to buy, or the service that they may want to buy from you. So the most important starting point is, do you have something that people want? And is it relevant to the market that you are intending to market towards? And in that sense, one needs to be thinking of the voice that you're going to use. Is that relevant to your intended market? And things will be very different if you're intending to reach out to a luxury brand versus perhaps a more consumer-orientated sort of brand environment. So the first thing is, do you have a product? The next thing, of course, is, have you considered, your competitors? Have you thought about what your own strengths and weaknesses are? And do you have the language that can help you to define yourself given an opportunity? And this is all really where it comes to marketing. How are you going to market yourself effectively? So you need to consider, how am I going to reach the markets that my intended work is best suited for? You need to do loads of research into that. Anyone that's developing a business or needing to succeed in their arena needs to do hard graft when it comes to working through who their market's going to be. But it's very much about also finding the language that best describes your intent as a photographer and your vision as a photographer, because these days, dare I say it, and it's quite a sad thing for many photographers to be aware of this, but you're not necessarily going to get hired just on the basis of your photography these days. It's very much about, yes, it's your work, but it's also about the personality and the brand around you that will be noticed in combination with your work. So marketing is very much about creating a presence, and it's developing the brand that you are as a photographer. And everything I've mentioned so far takes time. These things don't just appear out of nowhere, and you can't just make them one day or 1 week or 1 month. In fact, they take time. So the whole notion of running a business is, yes, it's got strategic stepping stones, but really, so long as there's a defined understanding in your mind that I need to understand and create and communicate my offer, my photography, that is distinctive, it's consistent, and it is relevant to the market, and that I understand that I need to build up myself as a brand, then this is a really, really strong starting point to understanding how best to move yourself forward. And just lastly, even though everything I've said, there's loads of subdivisions of that we can talk about, but also any product that one makes and you're running a business for needs to innovate. So photographers need to be innovating their work the whole time as well, and I'm sure we might touch on that a bit later. But there you have it. And running a business means there's this loathsome idea of SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities and what are the threats? You do need to do this kind of analysis to know where you stand in your own marketplace.
Excellent. Now, also, Zoe, you've already talked about so the importance of running a business. Needless to say, even if someone is developing a body of creative work that they absolutely love, you have talked. I know you've talked about the cost, the importance of thinking about it in business terms. You know, somebody might have to do a combination of work that they want to continue pursuing, but the work also that people will buy, or that they can identify that audience. But you have talked about the importance of the brand today, and how, and obviously that's different from what photographers experienced a number of years ago. Now, something that you have mentioned in the past that I'd really appreciate just a bit of insight on as well is what do you mean by active marketing?
What I mean by active or marketing, it's about how you can alert your customers, your potential customers, that you exist, and how do you retain them. So it's about attracting and retaining clients, and you do that through, these days as a photographer, not, as I say, just through having a great portfolio of work. It's about integrating a range of marketing activity through different channels, and that is all wrapped up in this notion of being a brand yourself as a photographer. And just to sort of explain what I mean by that again, because this notion of brand can be a bit off-putting, but I don't want it to be off-putting, because it really, if I could just say that it's about being you and the authentic self that you are, and knowing that that's more important than anything. It's not about creating a fake you. It's not about creating a logo on its own. It's a combination of all these components. But if one thinks about a brand from a photographer's point of view as to what people say about you after you've done the job with the client, it's what they say when you're not in the room. It's the aftertaste that is left. You know, oh, they were very they were great at problem solving, they were unflappable, they were very meticulous, they were great with planning, you know, they were very much on time. All these lovely words and expressions that help to sum up you, and hopefully for you to get them recommended to somebody else. This is part of your brand, what you're like to work with. But just coming back to your original question, active marketing is how you market this side of you, this approach to your work, the characteristics that you have as a personality. And how do you channel these elements of yourself through marketing? And of course, the most important way of doing this is you yourself. You need to be out there. You need to be active. You need to be, another word that people often, groan when I mention it is networking. But that really means just being in the places that you're
networking. Absolutely.
might be at, and you never know where your clients could be. They could be seriously opposite you in a train, next to you in the tube. You just do not know when a conversation might start. So you've got to put your best foot forward at any potential opportunity to explain what it is you do, have the language that conjures up your visual your visual style, and that you can immediately, there's an opportunity for somebody to interact with your brand, you are ready for it. And so you are your best marketing sort of tool, if you like. But then, of course, there's your website. So active marketing is about having an efficient and smooth-running, fast website that shows off your pictures and your brand to the optimum. So it needs to be, your pictures need to upload quickly. You need to celebrate your pictures so they aren't small. You aren't chasing small thumbnails across the. So there's loads to talk about just in terms of functionality of your website. But your website needs to be well designed, fast, and it needs to change. Within a year, you need to have new content on there. Not every 5 minutes, but at least once or twice a year, you need to have new content to show you are innovating. Then, of course, there's the whole social media, Susan, which you're an absolute expert in, side of marketing, which totally supports what we were saying before about the importance of developing your brand, but also showing the continuity of yourself and your brand. It's how you chat. It's how the language you use in Twitter. It's the pictures you're communicating through Instagram. All of this builds and adds to your presence and your consistency, and this is what clients will trust. If they start to, and believe me, they do look and they do check you out. It's not just I've seen a great website. They'll then want to see what kind of social platforms you're on and start to get to know what you're talking about, what your interests are. And they'll start to think, well, I like the sound of this person. I think I'd like to work with them. They seem to be very knowledgeable about this. They seem to be active there. They seem to be either very chatty, they seem to have a good sense of humour, or they're very cerebral and they're very sort of knowledgeable in their area. You know, you don't have to be one thing or another. You have to be you and what's really you, and that voice needs to come through everything that you're marketing through. Active marketing is also about regular email blasts, where you can either buy in lists of potential clients or you do your own, which I would recommend probably doing both. You have your absolute lists of clients who are prospects and those that you know and trust very well, and you regularly send out news items of worth, where there's some kind of call to action, where people need to look at this new body of work that you've just produced, take a look at this exhibition that you've got some work in, and so forth. There's so many ways that you can use that.
That's right. I mean, and so there is just so much that one could say, but I think perhaps as a final point in the video recap that we're doing today is you have talked as well a lot about the importance of basically keeping current clients and your current contacts even happy. You've already mentioned networking, for example, in this session. How is it that they can then essentially refer you to more business? Like how does that happen, and what can you do to encourage that?
Well, I would say, if I've understood your question, I think it's about consistently reaching out to those clients regularly, and so they don't forget you. They realise that you are buoyant in the work that you're doing, and that you're constantly refreshing and not standing still. I think the worst thing you could do is to do a job with a client and just thank them very much and wait and sit for the call that they're going to make to you. I mean, that's not the way to retain a client. The way to retain a client is to engage with them, not in an irritating way, but in a way that's relevant to them and pertinent to what their business requires, by reaching out through these various channels. Also, follow what they're doing through their social media outlets, and maybe commenting on what they're doing, so that you're aware and you're interacting with them and their brand. And this just shows that you're current, it shows that you're mindful of what they're up to, and it shows them that you're active in your creative pursuits. So it's about sort of keeping engaged without being irritating and phoning up saying, we've got any work for me. It's not like that.
Well, that's right, and then they can see that A, they're reminded of you, and B, they just see that you're putting yourself out there, you're continuing to develop, and that's so much of being
active. I think that's the thing. I think that finding new clients and retaining existing ones is about demonstrating that you are lively in your creative endeavours, you are nimble, you're thinking around ideas, you're not static, and you're not in a comfort zone which keeps you still. You're moving forward, and I think that's what clients want to see, that you're going to bring something extra and new to their communications in one way or another.
Well, Zoe, this has been absolutely superb. You've been very generous with how much information people will be able to glean from the session. How can people stay in touch with you going forward and continue just to watch your own program and your services develop?
Well, Twitter really is my platform. Yes, I've got a website, which is zoewhishaw.com, but really the way to check out what I'm up to, or what I might be tweeting about, it's through Twitter, and my handle is simply the @ZoeWhishaw. So it's very simple, but my surname is slightly awkwardly spelt, so make sure you've got a few H's in there. W-H-I-S-H-A-W. That's the best way.
Fabulous. And in fact, for everyone watching this, we've got even better news for you, which is that Zoe is indeed an advisor with Be Smart About Art's Creative Specialist Program. So she's happy essentially to have a 15-minute exploratory chat with you to see where you are with your own work, and to see if a real, if a proper session would be appropriate at this stage of your career. It's, as you know from what we've been saying, it's applicable to photographers at all levels of career, and that's really regardless of the subject or even the kind of medium in terms of what kind of photography you're doing. So do let us know at savvy@besmartaboutart.com if you would like to set up a 50-minute exploratory chat. And needless to say, I look forward to staying in touch with everyone, and so does the Be Smart About Art team, on besmartaboutart.com. We are on Twitter and now Periscope, the newest social media platform, which is live moving image with audio, at besmartaboutart, and myself at Susan J. Mumford. And if you've enjoyed what you've seen, be sure to share it with your own network, including Zoe and any of the posts that you do on Twitter at Zoe Whishaw. Zoe, thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure. It's too short. I've got so much to say, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Well, people will have to go see you on a one-to-one basis in order to glean all of that knowledge on it.
Thanks so much.
Brilliant. And so now, bringing the webinar to a close, signing off, and thank you, and see everyone again soon.